Can you see that? It's the change gear cover off my lathe. The Master 6-inch. Metric and Imperial. And this is the old girl. As I said so many times before, she's 80 this year. And I have had some problems with it. Some of them, admittedly, are generated by myself. One of the problems is on blocks, and it's not bolted down to the floor. It's too low for me to operate, so it's had to go up on blocks, and I can't bolt it down or put it on any sort of plinth properly because my workshop is actually built on patio slabs. So I haven't got a solid foundation underneath the shed. It originally was a patio. I just built my shed on top of it and then just flooded the floor with self-leveling. So I can't bolt anything down because there's nothing to bolt to. I did contribute this to one of the problems that I had, was the fact that I cannot part off on this machine. It's absolutely impossible. Even if I'm right up against the jaws of the chuck, varying speed, even with the softest material or hardest material, I just get chatter immediately. Paul Hopewell has been trying to help me out. He's given me some suggestions about like machine jacks underneath the cutting tool, rear parting, tool post. And after a bit of inspection, what I've actually found out is that I've got a large amount of play inside of this bearing. And this is obviously from the 1940s. So it's a plain bronze bearing, and I'm hoping it's tapered. I can't find any drawings information, but this locking ring here has got an identical one on the inside there, so I'm hoping that it's tapered and I can shove it back on that into the shaft a little bit more. One of the other things that I've had with this is ever since I put it together about 4 years ago, is I've never been able to move the carriage more than about 8 inches. This machine's had a really hard life. It was made in 1942. In 1945 it was converted to metric, and then for, I presume, the majority of his life it was used to make parts for trains for rolling stock for Europe after obviously what happened in 1945. And all the wear is on the first 10 to 12 inches. Top end of the bed up there, there's no wear at all, but if I take enough shims out so I can machine with it, I can't move it. So I've been doing a little bit of fettling. I've used some quite unconventional techniques, but I've got it to the stage now where I can actually move this carriage to the point where it used to stop there and continue it, if my hand don't fall off the bloody handle, almost right up to the top. This video is not about that. So I want to show you what I've done around the back. It may be an advantage to other people. It may not. You all might go, what have we done that for? So I'll show you. So when I first put this lathe back together, I shimmed this end, or this bar as you can see, so I had minimal play in the working area. But that limited me from going further up the bed. Not as if I ever work up there, but it is nice to be able to move the carriage out of the way sometimes. So by just removing one of these paper thin shims, I took the slack or the play out of this area here for working, but it restricted me. So what I've done, I put two of the shims back in, one there, one there. And working with that, I have now got to the stage where if I tighten this back up, because it will go back on, I'll just do a hand tight for the time being so you can see. Obviously that locks underneath the bed on that machine face, top end there, and that should give you decent tolerance so you can move back and forth without excessive play. What I'm not doing is putting the third bolt back in there, obviously, because these are through hole into this area and then tapped into this to pull it up. So what I've done instead, I've drilled a clearance hole here going down through the carriage, and I've tapped a hole the opposite way. And the idea is, now I drop a bolt in there and tighten it up from the top instead. I'll show you the reason why. Right, so everything's back in place, everything's tightened down. In that position there, I'm one shim short of the two sides. Now, I can move the carriage back and forth quite easily. If I get down to this end, because this is not reground, it's not precision, it's had a bloody hard life, and there's all the way from there forward. What I can do, if I find I have too much slack, just give it a little nip. Now, she's tight. And if I go further up the bed, and she starts to lock, I can take a bit off. Now I'm going to change this bolt for one of those ratchet type handles. So it means that I can reach across rather than just using a spanner all the time. The other advantage, which I didn't realise until I tightened it up completely, is if I give it half a turn, I know I've got a carriage lock. And it means I'm actually pulling the back end of the carriage down. So I've killed two birds with one stone. I haven't eliminated the wear out of the lathe, but I've made it more usable, and I've created a makeshift carriage lock, which is quite effective. I might, if possible, try and do it to the front one as well, because there is another one just there. So I've got adjustment on that. Whether or not I can work it, might be able to work it down through there, who knows. Just an idea. Ideas are made for sharing. Hope you like this, and I'll see you all soon. Right, I think you can probably see there, that's the fence at the back of my shed. Now if I zoom out and then pan down and round a little bit, you can see the banking, and then this is the Monmouthshire and Brecon Canal. So my little problem, well, a bit of subsidence, is my shed is sat on the top of a 10-foot bank on the side of a canal.